Hello guys, and welcome back to another Tweaker Man video. So I'm going to do this video in two parts. So the first part is going to be to restore the faceplate of the realistic TM 150 AM/FM stereo tuner. Okay, so I've dismantled it already. Okay, that's the dial settings there, and the next part is going to be to re-veneer the casework. Okay, so, and then the second part of the video will be upgrading all the electrolytic capacitors and other parts inside of the tuner itself. Now, I haven't finished the X10D yet because I ordered some more capacitors from Germany. And do you know what? The Royal Mail lately, I don't know what's going on with that company, but they've gone missing in the post. So I've got 4 of them, and I ordered another 4 and they've not come. And the tracking number is useless. And so is the Royal Mail. So that's all I've got to say on that. So I might have to repurchase them if I can't get the company to refund me, which I'm hopefully going to. But they're telling me I need to wait another couple of weeks. So let's go out into the studio and we'll start doing the work on the faceplate and the cabinet. So we're going to re-veneer this back housing, the part of the cabinet, with real walnut veneer, because this is just a wrap. So we need to remove the wrap and then we're going to veneer over the top. So let's head out into the studio now. So first of all, we're going to start off with the faceplate there. We've got a little bit of paint on the surface there that we need to remove. We can just hopefully just chisel that off without damaging it too much. It's come off fairly easy. Give it a very slight. There's a tiny little bit under there as well. There we go. So what I've also done is I've made this little jig here. So I've got the exact template for the side of this. Okay, so that'll help us. And it just needs to come out very slightly. So what we need to start doing is mixing up some of this Isopon, which is car repair filler. And that works really good for this job. And so let's get this. This is a whole brand new pot here. Got a load on the top there. We might as well use up first. Put that down to there. A bit more. Now you won't get this right in the first go. You'll need to do different layers of it to build it up. I've lost my voice today, it's a bit croaky, so you'll have to bear with me a bit. There we go. Also, when my dad, he cut the angle off of there, that one's good because he's left a little bit of plastic, but that side isn't. So this is why we need to build up in several layers, because it'll probably get in the way, the filler, you see. So so when you do this type of filler, you have to really give it a good mix up. You don't want any. So what we're going to have to do here is to give that a bit of a score up with a bit of paper. Now this is a bit of P180. You need to be fairly quick because this will go off otherwise. So we just give it a little bit of a score up along the edge there. And along there, just to make sure that the the filler's got something to adhere to. Okay, now we're just going to have to build up a very small bit in there first and leave that to dry. Now it's gone over the edge there slightly, so we can pull it back a little bit, and we can always chisel that off once it's dried on that side. Now this side here, we can now give this a fairly nice coating. So what we're going to do, we're going to sand this off afterwards on the linisher to get the right angle. Now I bought this tuner from Pounding the Streets in Hemel Hempstead, Hertfordshire, delivering people's newspapers. Some of them were the tabloids early in the mornings, and other ones were local newspapers. So it doesn't matter if we've got that bigger. You can see it's a big old blob there, and that one's a lot smaller at the moment because this side it's got to be built up a little bit. So we're going to leave that to dry now for a minute. I'll be back in a second. So while we're waiting for the faceplate to cure, we'll start peeling this off now. So this is the plastic wrap. So this is a walnut plastic wrap, because Tandy's always used to do their stuff with walnut, and this is coming off lovely. I don't want to talk too soon because I know what happens when you talk too soon. Exactly, this is what happens. So we now need to get our chisel under it again there, just to gradually get it started again. You can just chisel it along. Now be careful with your hands. I get people commenting saying, "Oh, it's dangerous using a chisel near your hands," but I am an ultimate professional. There we go. So we're just going to pull that up. We can pull that down. There we go. Get that off. Now this piece here, I wanted to try to keep that. So what I'll do is, if I can pull this off in one go, I'll be able to take that off and trim around that, so I can, or I might try to heat it up to remove it. There you go. So I'm going to keep that piece there, and even I might cut round this quality control sticker so I can put it back on and that. So let's keep that to one side. Now I've got a variation of veneers, so let's take a look at some of those. So we have two types of veneer here, both walnut. This veneer's got a paper backing on it, so you have to use glue with it. And the other one is the adhesive backed veneer. Now this one has a more the grain that it was looking like originally, should I say. I've cocked that up, but there we go. So this has got that sort of grain, is quite straight. So is that. This one is a bit more figured. So trying to keep it as original as possible, I'm probably going to go for that one. The worst part about this type of veneer with the adhesive backing is sometimes it doesn't always stick very well. So I've got a couple of ideas on how to do it. We need to seal this with PVA first, brush it all over, and make sure that it's all sealed. So, and that's the best way, and then that will then adhere to the surface better. So let's do that next. So this wood glue here, which is PVA, this is a fast setting curing PVA. 10 minutes it sets it. But before we do that, what we want to do is just give this a light sanding over, because I want to get anything that might be protruding on the surface slightly. Right, okay. And what we're going to do now, we're just going to wash the surface of that with methylated spirits. So here we have some methylated spirits here. We're just going to tip some onto our cloth here and just give it a good old wetting of the surface. Now, methylated spirits shouldn't raise the wood at all, because the wood, this wood is just hardboard. This is made from. There we go. So now we're going to set this aside to dry for a bit, and then we can concentrate back on the faceplate of the tuner. So let's put that over here. Now this has started to go hard. Well, it's rock hard now, that is, and this side has. We need to just concentrate on that side and put a bit more of the isopon mix onto that side. This is the bit that's the more difficult to do. Right, okay, get a bit more of that on there. And this is the benzoyl peroxide paste. So you use isopon with benzoyl peroxide paste, and that is what, this is what hardens the isopon. It's very good stuff. Now you can, I've got a fiberglass version of this hanging about somewhere, but for the life of me I couldn't find it. So, and that's even better because it's all got woven bits, little fibres, and it helps to hold it together even better. But this will do the job. I'll give it a really good clean mix up. Right, so now what we want to do is we want to try to build this even higher now. Now it may protrude out of the back, and then if it does, what we're going to have to do is just to chisel it off. We don't want to get too much over the front. Now there's a series of lettering on here, and the logo, the name Realistic. So I'm thinking to do it really well, we're going to have to respray the front. And then what I'll do is I'm going to try, I've got a mate that's a printer, and I'm going to see whether he can print some clear stickers with the writing on them, and I can just stick it directly straight over there. Now it's possible. Now that is now got to be left a bit longer now to dry, so I'll be back once that's dried. So while we're leaving the faceplate to dry, we're going to now turn our attentions to putting the PVA onto our casework at the back. Just going to cover it in PVA. And what I tend to find with that sticky back veneer is, if it's been sitting around a while, it's best to heat it up a little bit with a hairdryer, just to get the surface of the adhesive that's on there a bit more tacky, and then it goes off, and it works quite well like that. So there we go, we give this a really nice clean up. Make sure you cover every single part of it. Very hard in a workshop to not get any sort of dust particles in the top of things. It's very difficult, but got a bit more on the surface of that, of these side ones, and then we'll have to stand it on its front so no glues touching. We've got a hair in there, get that out. Okay, now we're going to have to put this on there like so. I'll hold it this time for now to get this glue all over it. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to oil the surface of the veneer. Now, I had a set of realistic speakers as well back in the day, and they were walnut veneered, real walnut veneered, and they were oiled, had an oil finish. So I thought it's probably best to try to keep it in keeping how it used to be, even though this one was a plastic wrap. But the rest of their more higher end products tended to be oiled. There we go, we can go right to the front now. Tickle it all around. Give it a good old spread. Right, so now I'm going to have to hold this side here as well before I can put it on its face. Don't want to put too much on, but so it runs. We don't want any runs in it. It's probably just about right, that is there. There we go. So that looks pretty good all round, nice and even. No runs. So now we'll leave it on its face like that to dry, and then we'll turn our attention back once I've cleaned the brush out on the faceplate. So we're now going to take our faceplate over to the disc sander here, and we're just going to give it a bit of a tidy up to start with. So this has got a slight angle on there, so we've got to be conscious to not ruin that angle. Getting there slowly. That's that one. And now let's turn our attention to the other side. Now it's a good idea to wear a mask at this point because there's a lot of dust coming off of here. So I'll be just putting my t-shirt over my top over my nose for the minute. Right. So we've got it to that stage now. See it there? So it's not looking too bad so far. There's a little couple of bits. So what we want to do, we want to get all this nice and squared, you see. So we've got to mix up some more filler to get it in there. As I say, it takes a few attempts to get it right. And this is why I said about putting some new stickers on the amplifier, because it's very hard to do this without damaging the faceplate. I mean, it was terrible that he'd cut the sides off in the first place, really, but there we go. So let's go and mix up some more, and then we can tinker all these in, and then afterwards we can then set the angle right as it would have originally been. Right, now we want to try to get that quite neat now. Now I've taken a photograph of the this front faceplate already, so I know exactly where all the lettering goes. I mean, you can get stock photos off of the internet, but I thought I'd do it anyway. There we go, that goes up there. I mean, someone who does car body repairs would be able to do this quite successfully as well. There we go, that's not looking too bad. A slight little bit on the edge there. Now we'll go to this side here, which is not as bad. There we go. Get that nice and neat. As I say, it may need one more attempt at the end just to smooth it out and get the any little pits that are on the surface of it. Right, I think I'll just leave it like that for now, and then we'll be back again shortly to sand it. So I've now got it to that stage, all nice and square, but it's got to have an angle on it. But first of all, before I do that angle, I want to cut back these bits. So I've done one so far, and what I want to do is just to chisel this back a bit, because it's going to get in the way at the back otherwise. And the reason I'm doing this before I put the angle on it is because the filler is thicker at this point. Okay, so just work our chisel down there a bit, and just wobble it over a little bit, just to get rid of some of the... I may not be able to see this that well on this camera, but I'll show you it once I've done it. Same with this one here now. And this sort of car filler, it goes extremely rock hard once it's dried, but you need to leave it to dry before you can start chiseling it, really, because while it's curing, it goes to like a softer feel, and then you can chisel it easy, but you've got the problem of attempting to damage it, and then you've got to fill it again and that. So so what I'll probably do is I'll spend a bit of time after, and then I'll come back and show you. So I've sort of chiseled that to there so far, and I'll carry on and get it a bit neater, more like that side there, and I'll come back and show you. Right, so now we've got it to this stage here, and I've chiseled all the backs out, so that's looking quite good. This side here looks like it needs to have a little bit more off of there. So what we'll do, we'll get our pencil, and we need to take a tiny little bit more off, but it's very complicated. That side there is slightly bigger than that, and it's not a lot in it, to be fair. It's not a lot in it. Well, what we need to do is to try it onto the casework first. So I've tried it on the casework, and it seems to be about right as it is. So we just want to put a very slight angle on there, which is never that easy to get it. So we're just going to set that up. Just a small angle, it's not a big angle, it's a small one. About right, I think. Maybe a tad more. Now you can see here now we've got a slight angle on it from the side there. You see, and the top there's got a slight angle on it. Now it was the same angle as the top, so I'm aiming for that in both, and I'm just going to guess it basically. About right, yeah. Now that looks pretty good to me. Looks like it's got the same angle on both ends there. Whether you can see that on camera, very easy. So now we need to do some fine sanding on it. So now we're just going to use a bit of 180 first, because we've got some grinder marks on there now that we need to sand out. Where it's where the disc sander's using 60 grit on there, you see. There we go. Now I probably won't get a lot of views on this video. I was restoring this anyway, so I thought I'd just film it and put it out there. I don't seem to get a lot of views on these types of videos, but I'm not really after the views. I thought I'd just do it anyway, just to show you how good it can look. That's going to be good, that is. So what I'll do is we'll just carry on sanding this up a bit, then I'll be back and I'll show you the finished article. So I've now finished the filling and the sanding on that. Obviously the front's all got to be sanded off, so it can all be primered and then sprayed silver again. This is the back, all done nicely. So I've got the case work there, I've set it aside there, the glue's drying off, so the next part is to get back and to veneer the back part of the case. So I've now finished all the preparation for the front plate, and it's all looking pretty smart. So it's all been sanded with 240, it's very smooth. Then I washed it with methylated spirits to kill any dust on the surface and any grease. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using this silver spray to spray it, and we're going to need a mask, a fume mask, so we don't get any of these horrible fumes down our lungs. So let's get cracking and I'll show you how to do this. So before spraying any aerosols, I usually give them a shake for about a minute, just to make sure that all the paint is mixed extremely well, especially with metallics, because you don't really want any stripiness. But when you spray with aerosols, when you spray metallics with aerosols, you can get some stripiness, but because this is such a small faceplate, that shouldn't happen. Right, we're not going to be using any primer on this, we're just going to lightly dust it. Just to make sure we don't get any. So we've already got a bit of fisheye going on there at the moment. So that's a reaction to whatever was on there before. So what I have to do is I'll give it a light coat, then I'll have to flat it back again and then give it some more light coat. Right, so we'll leave that to dry now for about 2 hours and then we'll be back. So this is going to need quite a few coats on this, and then keep flattening it back and building it up. So I shall do that off of camera and I'll show you what it looks like once I've finished. So it's the morning and I'm back out here in the studio, and you can notice this paint hasn't gone very well this time, and you can see there's a line down there where the filler's been put in, and it looks like that the plastic has risen very slightly. This tends to happen, so I'll be flattening that back quite a bit, and then we'll build up some more coats on there. But then we're going to finish it in a matte finish with some matte lacquer over the top of it. It'll look good once I've finished it. Looks a bit rubbish at the moment. It's gone a bit, there was a few fish eyes on there at first where I'd washed it with meth, so I should have killed any grease on there, but it could be grease build up from years and years and years. I even flattened it back, so I took most of the paint off, but sometimes grease can really be deep. So right, okay, so we're going to turn our attentions now to the back housing, the casework of this tuner. Now we're back on the casework again now, and what we want to do is we want to I've cut the veneer in the correct width, just over, and then we want to be able to mark this. We'll put it on there, we'll get the edge lined up there. Just get a very sharp pencil and go across and then we can then line that up there. Because we want to be able to make sure the grain runs all the way through. So that's that. And then we're going to turn it over again to this side here. Push that over there. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and then this is the last part, the fourth bit here. Okay, so we've got the thickness of the veneer to take into consideration as well. So when I do it, when I cut it out, I shall make it slightly bigger. So we're going to come up to here like so. Shoot it over very slightly. I've got a really sharp knife here. Right. Well, we can cut that through after. Another one. Go over slightly that way a bit more. Okay, then up to this one. Right, so we've now cut our veneers, and what we want to do is, because you get bits of dust and stuff settling in the top of the PVA glue, we're just going to give it a very slight rough the surface up a little bit, just to take off any bits of high spots that the glue might have left. And then we'll give it a good wipe over with some mess. Now this glue is also water resistant. Okay. Right, so that's that. So let's give it just a blast over with meths, and what it will do is it will make the adhesive slightly tacky again. Before we do that, let's just make sure we've got no dust on the bench here now. Put that up like that. Right, just give it a quick blast over, take any bits of rubbish off the surface. Right, okay, we'll set that aside for a second. And now what we're going to do is just going to heat up the back of these veneers with the heat gun, only slightly, keeping it away on a low heat, just to reenact, that's not the word, to you know what I mean, to get the adhesive to be a bit more pliable again, because it's been sitting around for a while, this veneer, with a sticky back, and it may lose a bit of its stick, and we don't want any bubbling going on. So I've used this on several occasions and I've had a bit of bubbling, and often it's because I needed to do this to it really. They don't tell you where I get this at the veneer hub to do this, but it's just a trick of the trade you pick up, just to give it a slight warming. Doesn't have to be loads, just a little bit. There we go. I'll put that down there. Right, so now we're starting with this end here, Okay, I'm going to use this piece of veneer here just to rest the cabinet on. Okay, so now we're going to turn this over. Now we're going to line up the grain so it runs straight the way through perfectly. We've got to make sure we get the correct part. That's it there. We can peel back this backing. Now this adhesive is extremely sticky, but you can still get bubbles. It's unbelievable. That's why I landed up putting some PVA onto the wood first. So I always shoot it over the top a bit. Well, that's not too bad, actually. Right, now you really need a roller to roll that flat. And I just happen to have one here. Look at that. There we go. And now we want to turn it over and just trim these bits off. In fact, I need a piece of plywood to do that with. What did I do with that piece of plywood I have? Oh, it's down here. This is the one that I was using for doing the spraying there. Right, and we'll just take our knife. Just gradually. So this is a great way of, if you've got some of those old Marantz receivers from the 70s or Sansui and they've got like a wooden back to it, and they always just used plastic wrap. It wasn't real veneer. It takes a while to go through this. There we go. Another bit of a trim off there. So that's that. Right, another one. There we go, that's all nicely trimmed there. And then we can just cut back the edge, or so say smooth back the edges with a bit of sandpaper at the end. Make sure that bit there is not. Right, so here we go, we've got a nice veneered end there. And now what we want to do is we want to line up the grain there, so we get that grain perfectly straight all the way through. So now this is the, we'll get this piece off now. And now what I want to do is I've got to try to come at an angle there. Now we'll just shoot this over the edge slightly so we can sand it back, otherwise what will happen is right, there we go here. Right, let's give this a good. Now you can apply some more heat to this afterwards, but don't make it too hot, because what it does is it cracks the veneer. I know this through experience. We'll go over with the gun at the end, and we'll just give it a light blasting on each piece. So you get the gist of how this goes. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to crack on with this off camera now, and I'll come back and show you it once it's all veneered. So I've finished veneering it all. It's come up really nice. I've sanded it, and I've washed it with methylated spirits. So there's a series of holes under there that I had to recreate. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use some of this light fast stained walnut. It's got a load of it dripped down the sides. Anyway, we're going to use this to stain it, and I was going to oil it, and my son said, "Oh, you should lacquer it. It looks so much better." So I'm gonna lacquer it now. But what I want to do is to get a nice deep walnut colour on there. It won't be exactly the same colour as the vinyl wrap that was on there. It's very difficult to copy colours like that exactly. All I do is we'll just give it some we'll leave that to dry for a bit. Another spreading over just to even out the colour. We want to do these edge bits round here. Now they never did anything. Now I was going to veneer those edges, and I thought I'll just lacquer them in. That'll be fine. And just do this front bit round here. Now I've flattened back the front panel again, and I'm just going to carry on building up light coats of silver before we lacquer it again, and then that should really come up quite nice. I've managed to get all the marks out, so right, so we'll just do the underneath now, and then we'll set this aside for 5 minutes just to dry off, and then we can start the lacquering process. Now I'm just going to use a waterborne lacquer. It's actually a floor varnish. They call it a varnish, I call it a lacquer. Anything that goes on is a lacquer really, which varnish tends to be polyurethane, like cheap polyurethane. That's what I call a varnish. And that stuff never dries, and it never gives you a nice finish, and it's awful. So let's leave that to dry, and I'll be back to show you how to put the lacquer on once I've done it. So I've left it to dry now, and I use this coloured floor lacquer, and I'm going to put it on with a brush to start with, but after I water it down and put it on with a cloth. So what we can do, this is a very, very fine gold line brush. It is super soft. So what we want to do is we want to put the coats on undiluted at first. So we're going to build up a couple of coats of undiluted, and then we'll dilute it down about 40% water and 60% lacquer. And what that'll do is that'll give us a really nice fine finish, and we'll put it on with a piece of stockinette rag up and down the grain. So what happens is the grain will rise, and then you'll need to cut it back with some 1000 grit to make it smooth before you start putting the other tops on there. With these bits here, these front parts, we can just have it on like that, and then just take your finger and run it up, so if anything's gone over the edges, then you can get rid of it that way. And then we'll do the same. We can lift this up now. Okay, you can go across the grain to start with, like so, and then just finish off with straight strokes. Make sure nothing's bled over the top or over the bottom, and you come down this side, and we can do the same. And then obviously the bottom we're going to have to do after it's dried, so I tend to give it 3 coats to the sides and the top, and then I'll do 3 coats on the bottom once they're dried. And then but as this video's taken quite a long time already, I'm just going to crack on with it, and I'll show you it once it's finished. So we'll leave that there now to dry, and I'll show you once I've finished the polishing process. So I've gave it 3 coats so far. So we'll leave this to dry and then we'll flat it back and start giving it some fine coats. So I've now finished the front plate. I'm going to give it a couple of coats of clear lacquer over the top. A matte finish because I want it to be a matte silver finish. It's come up really well now. No fish eyes going on now. Nice and even coats. And I've also now finished the casework, the back of the cabinet. It's got a very nice luster on it. I've actually sprayed this in a matte finish. So as this dries off now, this should turn into a matte finish. So very pleased with it all. So all we've got to do now in part 2 of this video is to turn our attention to the restoration of the inner circuit board and its parts. So I think that's it for this video. So thanks for watching another Tweaker Man video. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to give this video a like, and don't forget to press that notification bell so you're notified each time I upload a new video. And thank you for watching, guys.